Hi and welcome to the Reckon APS Tax Assets module. Today we'll look at the terminology and looking at the different types of assets. I'll give you a step-by-step demonstration on how to create, maintain, update, dispose and claim your depreciation or decline in value, and we'll have a look at some reporting on assets. So basically assets are broken into four types. The first type are depreciating assets. And within those types, we have different groups that provide different information per the different type of depreciating assets. Motor vehicles is the second type of asset. You can also claim your motor vehicle worksheet for your cents kilometre. We have capital gains with the various capital gains assets. And finally, we have the other sort of tax legislation for tax assets. What we'll do is we'll go and open the Assets module and have a look at that inside the tax return. Assets can be entered and maintained from within the Asset button from the Home ribbon. To enter a new asset, select this option. Type in your description. You then have the option to apply a template. A template would be useful if you have a lot of assets to enter that have the same type. In this case, let's use computer. It has the same type and the information on that can be pre-defaulted. So that's when you would use a template. Some examples I've got here: diminishing value, general business pool. It just saves me entering that information over and over. The other optional information you have that you can use is a group. Now a group is just a grouping of assets for reporting purposes. It also helps you find that when we look at the asset in the asset collections, you can group it by your group. Then you specify the type of asset. We went through the four main groupings and the different information available here. Depending on the option that you choose, will change the options for the information that you need to enter. Enter in the relevant details. Once you've entered in the basic information, you can then also determine whereabouts in the return you would like this item to be claimed as the deduction. In the case of a rental asset, you need to save and close it so that you can also check this box for a rental asset. We'll do that one next, so I'll save my computer, do save and new, and create another asset. This time I'm going to use some templates and I'll use my group and I'll put in my details. This one is a rental asset, so I'm just simply going to do save and close. I can also see that you have ownership details of assets. We'll just save and close this one. You can see now my computer and kitchen cabinets have come into my asset collection. Assets can also be seen from the menu option within the assets area. If I go back to our kitchen cabinets, you'll see here, is this a rental asset? You would say yes. And then you get to choose which rental property would this asset belong to. As soon as you do that, that has now assigned that asset to that particular rental property. And you'll be able to see now in that schedule, in your assets, that you have the kitchen cabinets. You can also see under your decline in value in your deduction area, in your capital allowances, that we have the decline in value here. If we expand that for the rental property, you'll notice that it allows me to look at the grid and it shows me each of those items. Of course, the Reckon APS Tax also allows you to multiple enter into the grid and allows me to also enter further depreciable assets that actually aren't in my asset schedule. So everything is done and pushed through to the relevant area very quickly. The computer, we go back to this one, we do have the option. I said I would claim this as a deduction. For each of asset that you choose, you have your asset profile, cost details, capital allowances and disposal details. In our decline in value area, I then get to choose where it is that this asset will be deducted. You can change your allocations and put them into more than one area. The system will not advise whether this is possible for this type of asset. That is up to you as the tax preparer and reviewer to check that your allocations are appropriate to the relevant tax law. That information will be seen in your deductions straight away, in your work-related expenses. We look at the detail on the grid, and in our case we also put the detail in the dividend deduction as well. So the information in the assets are all here. If you've made an error and you've added an asset completely, you have the option here to delete it, and you also have the option to create a new asset. We go and have a look at shares this time. In the case of our shares, we purchased it this year, we may not have disposed of them. So in the case of shares, we can put our cost-based details in the tax return, and this will roll over to future years. If you have sold a share, I'll show you where you can do that once you find your asset in your collection. We also have our ownership details. So the shares might be bought 50-50 between Ivan and Ivan's spouse. If I save and close this, I can now go and I can see in our asset collection that I have the shares. If I double click on that, we're already in it. You can look at my cost details for the shares. I can put my description in here so that I can keep adding to this particular cost element. You can see whatever the share portion is apportioned, and if I needed to go and sell a share, I would go to my asset, pick the relevant asset, and go down here to my disposal details. Pop in the relevant sale proceeds, and if we now have a look at our tax return, you'll see that the capital gains tax worksheet has been added, and you'll see here the relevant information has been pushed through into the return. If you click on the paperclip, it will go back and allow you to have a look at those assets. Again, we have short form entry as well as your assets that are stored within your asset collections. So essentially, depending on the information of the assets, they are all added through here. Once they've been added, they're available for you to review and update within here. If you have a small business pool, they are done exactly the same way by adding a new asset, and you would put what type of asset it is, and in this case we would allocate it to a relevant pool. The pool itself would then be created, and we can then see that information in our pools. The low value pool, we can see there that it's an immediate deduction. We would then apply this into the business income worksheet. Once we have all our assets in there, I said we can use the groups and templates to add them. You simply do that from here, and they're very basic setup to go through and add a new group. The groups will also show you running totals for the group. So that's a nice handy information to see that is summarised. And of course, you can also print a depreciation asset workbook schedule. There's our capital gain. If I go to the next page, I have my depreciation assets. You see that that is grouped by the relevant properties and those that are ungrouped. The last item that you'll see that is available from the asset menu is a batch update. If you have a group of assets that you need to apply a certain template to, a certain group to, you can do this by using the update option or selecting multiple assets. Essentially, it's going to update everything that you've selected. You then get to assign what it is, the action that you want to do. Do you want to assign it to a group? Do you want to assign it to a pool? What percentage of business use? And our allocation targets if we want to put it to a particular item. So you're able to do that in what we call a batch process. If you've sold everything, you can also dispose of the assets as well. For more information about this and other things with assets, please refer to the workbook. What have our learning outcomes been today? We've understood the various types of assets. Each type of asset will have different information that is stored inside the tax return. We've learned how to create an asset and apply a group or template when needed. We understood how and where to maintain assets, including disposals, sharing, and the decline in value. We've looked at reporting available for assets within the reporting option. On behalf of the Reckon Training Academy, thank you for your time. Please refer to the workbook or the information on your screen for further assistance. Thank you.